to our Veteranpreneur series here on eGuru, compliments of MeetAdvisor. My name is Kit Lancaster with GCG Financial. I'm here with Trevor. Trevor is has recently completed the UIC's Veteranpreneur program, a new program giving veterans as well as other students at UIC, but primarily veterans, an opportunity to engage in different aspects of starting their own business. So Trevor, you're a veteran. How did you, tell us where you're from?
I originally grew up in Wheaton, Illinois, and I actually currently live there now. I joined the Air Force JAG Corps in 2006, and I was active duty for almost 4 years. I then got out in about 2009 and have been in the Illinois Air National Guard as a JAG since.
So Trevor, what compelled you to join the services?
There is, I think there's an obligation that I felt personally that I owed a debt to my country, that I wanted to make sure I at least fulfilled and could pass that tradition on to my kids as an example, I think, of making sure that you understand where you came from and that there's an importance of serving and giving back.
I think that's fantastic to do that, and especially at a time of war too, where it's not, a lot of people can get really scared away because there's a lot of uncertainty when you sign that bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely.
On where you may be going.
Absolutely.
And in what capacity you'll be doing, regardless of your respected MOS.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's funny that that you mentioned that. I think when I was initially going through that process, the war was probably 4 or 5 years in, and I had no idea that I would end up in Baghdad as a lawyer who grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and sure enough, in 2008 there I was, and it was absolutely a highlight of my legal career thus far. So, as difficult as that may have been, it was incredibly rewarding and personally satisfying to be there.
And how has your service impacted what you've wanted to pursue, and more importantly, maybe even how you've been able to pursue it since separating from active duty?
Sure. I think when you are part of the largest corporation in the U.S., the Armed Forces, you get a sense of what it means to actually work for such a large entity. I think you have a better understanding of your role in that. But beyond that, you're given mentorship almost instantaneously. Almost as soon as you step through the door, there's somebody there who is providing you guidance. But more than that, who is ultimately challenging you to, not to be too corny, but to be all that you can be. And you may relate to that better than me as an Army guy. But once you are in that environment where you're constantly being challenged, you're constantly being pushed, you're constantly, and not in a negative way, I think, to be the best you can be, that translates very well into the civilian world. And it does so to the extent that you understand project management, you understand how to delegate, how to, I think, how to appropriately lead a project, depending on your experience in the military. So that skill set was very well translatable into the civilian world.
Do you feel you got more competitive being in the service?
You do, and it's a healthy competition to the extent that I don't think you want to let down the people that are working, quote, beneath you and those who are above you. So you do want to do your best, and I think that does foster a healthy competition. And the way that's translated, at least as far as the UIC Veteran to Ventures program, is that you are able to take some very interesting ideas and test them in a good environment to see if there's actual viability with that. And so it was a very interesting convergence of a military world and a really civilian world.
Are there a couple hallmarks of that program that delivered a lot of value for you, that if someone's thinking about doing it and maybe they're on the fence, that you could share with us that could maybe help them get off the fence?
Yeah, absolutely. I think UIC was leading the charge, at least based on the research that I was able to do, as far as actually pairing veterans, and it was no cost to veterans. So they paired veterans with developers and engineers and software guys, and that does a couple of things. The first is that it allows the veterans to probably enter into a space that they may not have had exposure to. The Air Force, or at least the military in general, probably contracts a lot of that work out. So there may not be as much exposure to that as some of the prospective business owners would like. Excuse me. The other thing it does is that it also pairs the civilians with the armed forces, and I think that's also a healthy experience for them. I think it serves as a very good bridge between understanding the armed forces, and then the armed forces folks understanding the civilian world a little bit better. So I think the biggest hallmark, aside from obviously the cost, was that everybody that you meet probably has a good idea for a business. They think, I'm going to go out and here's how I'm going to make my millions. And what UIC did was that they allowed you to explore that concept in a relatively safe environment, in a very structured environment. So you were able to really flesh out your idea to see if there was actual viability to it. And beyond that, you had some real world practitioners who are able to understand the software component that is likely going to be attached to any new business. And they could talk to you about, all right, here's why it is feasible, here's why it's not feasible. To that extent, we had a concept related to unmanned aerial vehicles, drones. And the concept that we have is, it's called Sky Farmer. And what that involves is allowing a farmer to take a drone and attach a camera to that drone so they could survey their field and conduct crop analysis, crop surveillance. That's a very, very valuable function to a farmer because it allows them to understand where hydration may be an issue or diseased crops may be an issue. And it allows them to specifically pinpoint a problem area. Our concept was to provide a farmer a personal, individual, affordable, most importantly, affordable drone that would allow them to conduct a crop survey as often or as not often as they wanted to. And we are still in the development phase. We were actually fortunate enough to be the, I guess, quote, the winning idea from our course. And what that did is that gave us the confidence to pursue the idea after the course ended. In other words, we weren't, just fishing for a good idea and we're going to go and make our millions. And it lended a little bit of credibility, I think, to the idea that maybe this is a viable concept. And certainly USC has been in touch with us after the course to kind of see how things are going, and that's been a very valuable service as well.
Outstanding. With regards to that, your next idea, what challenges, maybe one or two of them are right on your radar right now? On the Army, you would say, what's your 50-meter targets right now?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest challenge, and apparently it's part 2 of the UIC course, so maybe I'm not there yet, but the biggest challenge we have going forward is taking the theoretical into the operation. In other words, how do we translate our plans, our concepts into actual actionable work? And that's really where we're at right now. We're on the precipice of trying to develop some software that I think would be very valuable, very marketable, but we need to kind of lay the groundwork, and that's probably going to be the biggest challenge.
Okay. We really appreciate you coming in today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Before we go, for any veterans out there maybe thinking about starting their own business or looking at the UIC program, what's a good way for them to engage or find out more?
I would say use UIC's network specifically. They've obviously cracked the nut on how to incorporate veterans into that space, and I think they've got a great networking opportunity available for most veterans who are interested in that.
Is there a website that they can check out or a contact that they can reach out to?
Yeah, I would reach out to Denise Ching at UIC.
All right. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kit Lancaster at GCG Financial. On behalf of MeetAdvisors, we'll look forward to seeing you next time with more veteran business owners and ways that veterans are connecting with business. Thank you.